Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first ever edition of Gogglebox podcast. It is Friday, the 23rd of September 2011, and you're listening to myself, Michael, and my colleague and friend, John.
Hey up.
Are you all right, John?
I'm all right, thanks, Michael.
Good. So how's this going to work? What's this Gogglebox thing all about, John?
Well, basically, we need a way of being able to talk to students 24 hours a day, no matter what they're doing. And
You're allowed to do that?
Yeah, I think so. And if we talk into this contraption here, then they can pick it up on their phones and stuff.
So what are we going to do? Record it, and then where are we going to stick it?
It's going on iTunes, isn't it?
I think that was the plan.
Yeah, we're getting dead technical now. So it's going up on iTunes, and also it'll be available through the Gogglebox feed. Yeah, the RSS feed. You'll be able to pick it up on there and listen to us waffling on.
Yeah. So what's the format going to be? Just so people can ready themselves for it.
Okay. Well, every week we're going to talk about some things that are important to the course, some things that are important to the media industry, and some things that are important to the film industry.
And also some things that are important to us.
Oh yeah, to us too. But the key thing about it is that it's like a bit of an extra thing that maybe we don't discuss things like this in class. Maybe it's just things that people should be aware of, or things that people might be interested in.
Yeah. It's outside of class stuff. Okay. So basically, then I'll make a start, shall I? That's probably as good a place as any. This week within college, what we've been doing within Vision Create, we've been looking at genre. So the first diploma group, the level 2 group that I have, and the extended diploma, the level 3 group that you have, we're looking at genre this week. What kind of things have they been looking at? Genre, I know I've said it about 1,400 times now.
Genre is really important. I mean, from my point of view, genre is important because it's things that everybody knows, even though they're not taught it. So everybody can use genre quite well, even if they're not a film student, or even if they're not somebody that analyses films or even into films. We still know about genre. So we've been trying to pick the idea of genre apart and trying to find out what genre actually means and what it allows people to do.
Right, okay. So, for example, I used, what I did was I gave some of my students a genre. So I said gangster or western or whatever, and I said, what are the kind of things that you could expect to... Is that the sort of thing that you mean?
Yeah, just sort of picking apart that prediction process, because I think everybody goes into sort of HMV or wherever it is that they buy the DVDs from.
Our price.
Oh yeah,
if you go back in time.
Online or play.com or even what's the video shop called online?
The video shop. Blockbuster.
No, not Blockbuster. What's the other one?
I don't
Love
know.
Film.
Oh, Love Film.
They'll use Love Film these days, don't they?
Yeah.
So if you're on Love Film, you need to know how to find films, and I think people generally can do that. So they're using genre even if they're not taught it. But I think we like to pick up on things like what it allows you to do if you're a filmmaker, which is it allows you to do things like predict how much it's going to cost to make a film, or predict how much it's going to cost to market a film, or even predict how much a film's going to make.
So give us an example.
So, for example, sci-fi film tends to be quite expensive. So straight away, if you pick up a script as a filmmaker and it's got a lot of sci-fi stuff in there, even if it's not based in space or anything like that, even if it's just some effects that you want to use, then you know straight away that you're going to have to come up with a big budget.
Right, okay.
So it might constrain the type of film that you can make, and it might change your opinions on the type of things you can achieve with a film.
Yeah, because the important thing about sci-fi is that I think people's expectations of it now are that we don't expect like the sort of 1950s B movie with really poor special effects and rubbishy.
Because you end up on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah.
Octopus versus giant squid or whatever it is.
Yeah, which you don't want.
No, you don't want that.
You want to end up on the big screen, don't you? You want to be in Hollywood, effectively, really.
Yeah. I mean, and we're at a period of time when actually even somebody with a very, very basic PC at home can do some really, really special visual effects and use quite a lot of CGI stuff that's quite expensive to do.
Yeah.
They can do it in their own home now.
Monsters being the example.
Yeah, but then that means that if you're a filmmaker or you're a professional filmmaker, you've got to push the boat out just that little bit further to get noticed.
Right, okay. So that's how producers use genre. The audience? Is it about making the decisions for what you're going to go and watch based on what you've seen in that genre before, or is there something more?
Yeah, but then because I was teaching the level 3 group this week, and up at that level we go into things a little bit more in depth, and we were talking about the idea of pleasure and the fact that people derive great pleasure from almost a bit like train spotting genre. They like to pick out elements of a film that they understand or that they're quite used to, and they get pleasure from seeing those elements or having their predictions sort of proven right when they get into the cinema.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, say they're going to see a Western,
yeah,
and they expect certain things from a Western. They get great pleasure from having predicted what they were going to see before they see it.
Yeah.
And then what they end up doing is when they go and see a Western, and then maybe something different happens they weren't expecting. What happens then is they get pleasure from people not fulfilling their expectations, almost giving them something that they don't expect.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think the audience feels empowered by that?
Well, not so much. Not so much. I don't think they really question it.
Right.
I think it's only us sort of film fanatics or media students that question stuff like that, really.
So maybe on a subconscious level, you might feel empowered by something.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the things that we discuss and a lot of the things that we analyse, it is done on a subconscious level, and that's what we're trying to get across. Actually, even if you're not taught how to analyse a film, you still know what goes into a good film. Yeah,
absolutely, because you derive pleasure from some of the scenes or the actors or whatever, really. Yeah. Okay. So let's move away from college, and let's think about the world of media at the moment. What kind of stuff is happening out there? What's interesting? What are people watching?
Well, at the minute, I think people are getting really excited about Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yeah.
Hot off the heels of things like the King's Speech, I think people are really, really excited about British film and British filmmaking at the moment. And so Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, that's just the latest instalment of these sort of retrospective pieces about key times in British history.
Right, okay.
So whether or not it seems, I mean, do you want to give them an update on where Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy comes from?
Yeah, it's a John le Carré novel. It was written in, I think, 1974. It's a spy novel. I think John le Carré used to work for the Home Office and work in MI5, not MFI, which is a totally different establishment. And so he wrote this novel, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, about his time working in the MI5. He picked up, not the MI5, working in MI5. I can't even say it now. In MI5, yes. And so some of these characters who appear in it, so somebody like George Smiley, who's like the main protagonist in this novel, is one of the old kind of guard that was, around from the 40s and 50s. It was made into a BBC 7-part series in 1979, I think. And so what they've decided to do, as Hollywood likes to do nowadays, or the film industry, 'cause it's not a Hollywood production, is remake stuff that's been successful in the past, really. Give it a modern day twist to it. Although I think this may be an exception because it's not set. Is it set in the modern day? I don't think it is.
No,
is it?
But I think you're right to say that actually it's a historical piece that's been given the modern treatment.
Right.
So it's got that feel. I mean, the director Thomas Alfredson, he did Let the Right One In, And if you've seen that, you'll know that there's a director that goes into for very, very meticulously made, highly visual, very touchy-feely films where you're made to feel part of the city, made to feel part of 1970s Britain. So a lot of the tones and the textures and the colours have been very sort of meticulously painted by him to evoke that 1970s.
So I suppose, because it's not a big blockbuster. Do you think it's because the audiences have changed now that they have to, filmmakers have to do that kind of thing, almost make the audience feel part of something. So obviously, because it's not a blockbuster, there's not big explosions and whatever in it, that some form of, not trick, but technique has got to be used in able to enable the audience to enjoy almost.
And I think it's also very, as we spoke before about sci-fi. Sci-fi is very expensive to do. Well, actually, doing traditionally costume drama very, very expensive to do. But we live in an age where there's lots of pieces of kit from the 1970s that are still around.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some in our studio.
Yeah. John, don't say that about John.
Didn't mean John. But we have some bits of speakers, and we have turntables and things like that.
I think people have it in their houses.
Yeah,
now, don't they? It's almost fashionable to
have this retro
stuff almost.
So I think he's just employed a lot of that stuff because actually that's quite a cheap way of making film very, very personal, and I think that's what audiences want at the moment. They want that. They want to feel like it's a film that's been made specifically for them.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of the nature of the global economy, or is it not as wide as that? Is it just...
Well, I mean, when you get summer... We've had a rash of summer blockbusters as well, so this has come just in time for the award season and just after all the summer blockbusters like Super 8. And I think it just offers audiences a different... It's been proven with things like The King's Speech, which they made for 15 million, and worldwide it's going to gross nearly $400 million,
right?
Which is a massive profit.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that it's been seen that there is a market for these movies. It's the type of movie that maybe your mum and dad would go and see.
Yeah.
Who don't normally go to the cinema, but they will actually go to the cinema and pay the money to see.
I do know that my
film.
parents went to watch The King's Speech.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have. I saw it on, I'm going to say video then, but I didn't watch it in the 70s. I saw it on DVD, but I would have never have gone to watch it at the cinema.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really the King's Speech. It's not really I've got really bad memories of The Madness of King George.
Right. Yeah.
And being dragged to see that by my parents.
Right.
Which.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, but I think this is different. I mean, I think this is the people doing a historical piece, but actually, we're quite interested at the moment, especially with all the WikiLeaks stuff, and especially with all the things that we maybe talk about in a minute about the phone hacking scandal.
Yeah,
I think people are quite receptive to that spy.
But that also comes back to this idea of genre that we've talked about earlier, in the fact of genres constantly evolving, and the stories that exist within genres only follow kind of social trends, don't they?
Yeah.
So I was talking to the students the other day about films like Top Gun and some of the sort of science fiction B movies from the 50s, like It Came From Another Planet and The Blob and stuff. How actually, if you look at it in a social context, it's to do with the Cold War and the fear of Russians invading the US.
Yeah, and then with global warming, you get things like The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah, and that awful film 2012.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Brilliant. So you think that's the recommendation?
Yeah, that's the one to look at the moment. I mean, as we've said before, there's so many films come out every week. It's difficult to pinpoint one, but I think that's the one that everybody's talking about at the moment.
Absolutely. Okay. Moving on then, I don't think we want to get too bogged down with the politics of the hacking story, but I think the news this week that the News of the World and Rupert Murdoch have donated £1 million to charity, and I think they're going to award the Dowler family £3 million worth of damages. How's that playing out in the world of the media, and how does that fit in with stuff?
Well, I think from our point of view, it's interesting because in media industry, we talk about the way in which different companies are set up and the effect that has on the product at the end of the day. And News Corporation, the Murdoch Group in general, they're a company that's so almost vertically and horizontally integrated to a massive scale that their control of the media far outweighs anybody else's control of the media, and that's quite a dangerous thing if they tend to get involved in these type of operations.
So what you're saying is not only do they own newspapers and TV stations and film companies, but also they own the distribution rights and the ability to distribute their own newspapers and stuff. So in actual fact, it's like a one-man wrecking ball, really, once you get something, the bit between the teeth over a story. And
I think as well they're a global company, and one of the interesting things is to try and watch a government on a national scale, like our government, try to tackle and try to cope with a company that has global links. How do you pin down a company that probably doesn't even broadcast their broadcast from this country? How do you pin that down to a law that exists just in
and also with having such political kind of sway or influence or clout, if you like, that actually if you are a politician and you may have done something naughty in your time, then you don't want that scandal getting out, and they're almost held to ransom over this kind of thing, aren't you? And I suppose what the point is the danger of having such a global presence in the media means that almost you're beyond regulation.
I think as media, as people that watch what the media do, and people that are interested in the industry and perhaps working in that industry at a later date, it's really important that we pay attention to these things and the way in which they play out, because it can have a dramatic effect on what we do for a living, and it can have a dramatic effect on the access that we get to the media outlets that we may work in or that we may produce products in. So I think it's important to understand the landscape of what's happening.
Yeah, which kind of brings me on to the next point that I wanted to talk about, which is the rise of Facebook and the way in which such a massive global company now. I was reading somewhere that it's I think it's in the top 3 of the most looked at websites in the whole of the world. And now what they want to do is change a few things. They've had this thing called the F8 conference this week, where they've kind of launched some new parts to Facebook. And one of the things that they want to do is there's a tie-in with Spotify, so you're able to be targeted with what music you listen to, and then there's what they're doing is, rather than putting your profile on it, it's like a visual timeline of your life almost. And I just think that's really scary. That a company like that, it's almost as though we're not individuals anymore. We're being fed whatever it is. And I don't want to go down the route of conspiracy theories or anything like that, but it's kind of scary, isn't it?
I think one of the things that you have to, and I use Facebook, and I use various different forms of social networking for lots of things that I do. It tends to be people's preferred way of communicating, so it's almost ubiquitous. You can't help but have to use Facebook for some things. I think it's important to question how much personal freedom you're giving away for very, very little in return.
Absolutely.
And they have your photographs, they have your date of birth,
email address,
they know where you live, they've got your email address,
know who all your friends are,
they know what kind of music you listen to, they know what kind of films you like. And actually, the skeptic in me would say they're using that and they're selling that information to marketers through their advertisement regime, and it's a very, very easy way, which all media industries do, except for the BBC, fanfare, is they deliver audiences to advertisers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Facebook is a way of doing that on a massive scale, but also what's really, really interesting is the way in which they can do that to niche markets too.
Yeah.
So because it's internet based, they're not trying to capture 16 million people that all like McDonald's.
Yeah.
They're trying to capture the 200 people in Birmingham that may like a pair of Converse that's red on one side and green on the other.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, I mean, when, years ago you'd get market researchers knocking on your door, and you wouldn't let them in. I mean, even I get it nowadays when people knock on your door and say, "Oh, I want to sell you double glazing," even though they can quite clearly see I've got double glazing. I just say to them, "I don't own the house," so they go away. But actually now, Facebook's in your house. They're inside of your house, and they've not asked to be in there. You've almost willingly given.
Yeah, like vampires.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
As soon as you invite them over the threshold, that's it.
Yeah.
They can eat you.
Do the vampires eat you?
No.
No, they just turn you into other vampires, don't
Suck
they?
your blood, I think.
Suck all your information out.
Yeah, and that's what Facebook do, basically.
Yeah.
They collect information about people.
Mm.
And I think we've spoken about this before in class, but it's also it's also a further step down the road of people turning themselves into brands.
Yeah.
And commodifying themselves.
There was the Weetabix story this week where did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it on the Guardian website.
Yeah. So 2 children, twins, I think, 4, 5 years old, something like that. They are being sponsored by Weetabix.
Yeah.
So at school, all of their clothes and the pencil cases and bags are branded by Weetabix. And it's
which actually, if that's all they did and they went into class, that would maybe affect the other 20 people in the class. But it's a very, very good example of what people call a pseudo event, where an event is created just to generate newsworthiness.
Yeah.
So they can get it. It's almost the scandal is worth more than the actual action itself.
Well, you see that almost every week with somebody like Simon Cowell, and oh no, one of the judges left X Factor or blah blah blah. It all turns out to be rubbish and this, that, the other. But actually, like you say, it's a pseudo event, so it's about brand recognition at all times. It's about people who buy things, i.e. us, just having that person's name in our head at that moment in time, and that's just the way it works.
Well, I think Mark Commode was talking about the fact that he now feels that whenever he writes a bad review of a film, that actually that has so little effect on whether or not people go and see that film, that the big studios actually would prefer to have 30 bad reviews than have one good one.
Right.
And so he's decided to try and stop writing reviews at all of films that he doesn't think are worthwhile watching.
Because he doesn't want it to even give them publicity.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if Hollywood are going to make a bad film, he believes that actually the best thing he can do is just ignore it, rather than actually give it press time.
Or time of day or whatever.
Yeah.
How bizarre. Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Well, that kind of leads us to the end of the show, really. The one thing that we're missing is a theme tune.
Yeah.
And that's where we want people to get involved. So, if you are listening to the show and you want to get involved in any way, and you think, oh, actually, I think I'd be able to write them a theme tune, then John, what do they need to do?
Well, that you can. We thought, because our level 2, level 3 students have all been taught how to produce audio using Soundtrack, that what we'd ask for is either a piece of soundtrack or maybe sound effects that we can use in the show,
or a music bed or something like that.
Yeah, something that plays in the background that gives us a bit of an identity. If you want to use software at home, that's fine. Audacity's free, so you can use software at home. It can't be anything that's copyrighted, so we don't want you looping anything or chopping bits of Ginchy Strider up and that kind of stuff, because you'd get arrested for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you do, hide the
Dizzy as
Don't
well.
chop him up.
Yeah.
Although we'd like to sometimes. But can't do anything like that. So what we'd like you to do is to something original, something that we can actually use and broadcast without it affecting copyright or anything like that. Pop it on an MP3 and email it through to us.
Yeah.
So that's either john.hall, jon.hall at wnc.ac.uk or michael.rhodes, Rhodes spelled RHODES.
Yep, it is. I hate... go on, carry on and I'll tell you.
At wnc.ac.uk.
I find myself, whenever, on the phone and they say, what's your surname? And I say Rhodes. And for some reason, I always spell it out. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, John as well. People put the H in and then people can't find me.
You can't tell, though, because when you say your name, John, sometimes...
Do you know why it is?
Why?
It's because when I was little, my parents didn't think I'd be clever enough to put a H in it.
What?
They thought it would be... they thought it would be easier. No, they thought it'd be easier for me to spell.
How right they were.
Yeah.
So they put the H in the surname.
Yeah, it's not Jonathan either. It's just
John. Oh, bit of family
without an H because I'm stupid.
I'll testify to that one. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. Like we say, if you want to get involved in any way whatsoever, create a soundtrack, contribute any stories, or want us to discuss any topics that you think are, hot at the moment, or if you think there's a great film that we should watch, then do get in touch, and we'll speak to you next week.
Yeah, take it easy.
Bye.